Pure Financial Advisors, a registered investment advisor. This show does not intend to provide personalized investment advice through this broadcast and does not represent that the securities or services discussed are suitable for any investor. Investors are advised not to rely on any information contained in the broadcast in the process of making a full informed investment decision. This is Your Money, Your Wealth on Talk Radio 760 KFMB. Now, here's Joe Anderson and Big Al Clopine.
And welcome to the show. Joe Anderson here, certified financial planner. Big Al right next to me. Little lineup of the show. We got what? Tom Anderson. You know, debt is always like a bad word in retirement, but not to Tom.
Yeah, he actually is going to teach us why there's certain value of debt in retirement.
Right.
Got to hear that.
Everything that you learned was wrong.
Everything about debt you heard is wrong. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to kind of unpack that and see what he's talking about.
Yeah, because everyone, you talk about pay off your mortgage, you want no credit card debt and everything else. And I agree with all of that. But in some instances, hey, if you understand both sides of the balance sheet,
right,
then you might have a little bit more leverage and success. And this doesn't apply to everyone. Because there's discipline that needs to be involved here.
There is discipline, and there's certainly, we've heard people talk about good debt versus bad debt, and generally bad debt is things like credit card debt, high interest rate debt, where you're typically using that kind of debt to fund a vacation or buy a new TV, something like that, things that go down in value. And good debt might be like a home mortgage if you have a home that will hopefully go up in value. So you do get that distinction. So I think probably that'll be partially what he talks about, but we'll find out.
Sure. Like last week we had Doug McCormick on, and Family Inc. was his book. And he had a similar philosophy in regards to looking at your finances as a company. You're the CFO of your particular family office or your family business. And Tom Anderson, that wrote the book, Debt and Retirement, and what everything you learned about debt was wrong, kind of has a similar philosophy of looking at both sides of the balance sheet, kind of looking at your overall financial wealth as a business. Because most big companies, they have debt on the balance sheet, and they leverage that debt.
Yeah, they do. Good point, Joe, because they do look at it differently than we do. In other words, they borrow to fund their inventory. They borrow for expansion, maybe to buy equipment, maybe to set up a new location. And all of these things are designed to make them more money in the future.
Not less.
Right. And so when you use debt properly, it can actually be pretty effective.
So stick around for that. And of course, we have your email questions. And, when we look at debt, I don't know why I went back to this, but I am, is that there's discipline. There has to be discipline. And in regards to all things in life, when it comes to finances, you have to have some form of discipline. And the easiest way to save for retirement is in your retirement plan through your work. But what's the latest study here? That maybe half of companies or smaller companies or more than that?
This is right off the press, Joe. This is Bureau of Labor Statistics. They looked at companies with fewer than 50 employees, which is the majority of companies in the United States. I mean, there's a handful of big ones, but the most, if you just look at the sheer number of people in sheer number of businesses, sheer number of workers, they're working in very small companies. So under 50 workers, not even half of those employees have access to a 401k. Right? So in other words, less than half have any kind of company retirement plan. And just as a reminder, when you have a 401k at your employer, you can put in $18,000 pre-tax of your salary. And you know what? If you're 50 years and older, you can do another $6,000, what they call catch-up. So you can put $24,000 in. Now, you might have a next-door neighbor that works for a company that doesn't have a pension plan or 401k plan, and they don't have that same opportunity to put pre-tax money away. So in a sense, it's really a shame. There's not a lot of parity, I guess, in terms of people's ability to effectively save for retirement.
Well, we have a new president that was sworn in on Friday, yesterday.
Yes.
And, with the slogan of Make America Great Again, right?
Yes.
In looking at small businesses, and we talked a lot about kind of the proposed tax law that Mr. Trump wants to do, or President Trump
Right.
would like to do. And so small businesses is a key component of that, right? In building small businesses is kind of the fabric of our company, our country.
Right.
But hopefully someone in the organization there can fix this whole retirement debacle. Because if there's so many small businesses, and most of those small businesses do not have a retirement plan through their employer, it's very difficult for them to save because of the discipline factor again. Because I can then check a box with my HR and say, I want to put 4% of my income into this plan. It comes directly from the paycheck into your 401k plan. It's out of sight, out of mind. And lo and behold, you know what? After a few paychecks, you kind of even forget about it, and you're living your life and you're saving and you're paying yourself first, which is a key component of financial success.
Right. It is, Joe. And it's, almost more disturbing than that is when you look at this little graph that I'm going to kind of read for you, which is, less than 50% of the companies that have 50 employees or less have a 401k plan. But if you look at the number of people that participate in plans, I mean, you're looking at all people, whether they have a plan or not, it's only 33%. So in other words, about 50% of the companies, a little bit less, have a pension plan, but it's like only 33% are actually taking advantage of it. And that's a whole nother problem, right? Which is, man, we got some people have the ability to save for retirement, but for whatever reason they choose not to.
Yeah, well, and maybe choice is a strong word too. Maybe they feel that they can't because they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Right. And and in Southern California, that is a big problem because it's a high cost of living here.
Yeah, but then most of our listeners, and you know who you are, that make significant income, that are not saving nearly as much as you should.
But isn't it funny, Joe? And we talk to a lot of people, and it's and a lot of people we talk to are very disciplined, and they do a great amount of saving, and I'm sure you're one of them. However, we also talk to people that it doesn't seem to matter what salary level they are at. They spend every penny. They always tell us the same thing, which is, I don't have a lavish lifestyle, and there's no way I can save a penny. And what are other people doing?
Right.
And it's like
people that make a third of your income have
are
10
saving.
times, saving, and guess what? They have 7 figures saved.
Right. I mean, if you want me to dive in, I can say, well, let's see. You got biweekly maid service. That's not, if you look at the general masses, that's not something that a lot of people have.
Well, yeah. Weren't your neighbors complaining because they saw you vacuuming?
Well, I was
with an apron on.
Yeah, I mean,
and Annie, your wife, is mowing the lawn.
Well, no, I didn't say that. You said that. No, I said that, and we were talking.
She's got the forklift.
I was talking
repairing the roof.
I was talking Well, here's the story. I was talking to a group of guys, and it just came up about how I'd rather. One of the guys said, I'd rather have my wife tell me why she's mad at me than not. Right, and where my head went is, well, yes, me too, and I think part of a great marriage partnership is helping each other out. And I used the example of I'll vacuum the carpets, and then I get crap from my guy neighbors that they see me doing that. Al, what are you doing? You're making us look bad. So I have to close the shutters.
Yes, right. Well, that's kind of creepy that they're looking in on you.
You know what? You're right.
I think that's the bigger problem.
What?
I don't think the problem is you vacuuming. I think the bigger problem is that your guy friends are peeking in watching you vacuum.
I never thought that is a bigger problem.
Oh boy. So when we come back, we got Big Al's list of the week. So stay tuned for that. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth.
This is Your Money, Your Wealth on Talk Radio 760 KFMB.
Hey, welcome back. Joe Anderson here, certified financial planner. I'm with Big Al Clopine. He's a CPA. What list do you got this week, Al?
Well, I guess I wanted to go a little bit different, a little bit off track in terms, because a lot of times we talk about finances and how much to save and retirement planning and taxes. This is 18 questions to ask yourself before you retire, Mr. Joseph Anderson.
All right, 18 questions.
So I don't know.
Let's not go through
I don't
18.
know how many we'll get to.
Just a couple.
Even I'll say that. I guess I'll start with the very first one. What does being retired mean to you? So you got to ask yourself that question.
I think these are, touchy-feely, softy, Tony Robbins type stuff that I really hate. But I think it's extremely important.
It is important.
Because I see, I've been, doing this a few years now, right? And when people, our clients, right, they hire us, if they're in retirement, before retirement, whatever. I mean, but when, let's say a pre-retiree, they're 5 years out of retirement, right? So we've been working with an individual for 5 years, saving money, doing some tax strategies, making sure the portfolio's sound, getting them buttoned up on, their estate planning, risk management, and so on. And then they retire, right? There's a definite shift in the energy of that particular individual where, there's anticipation and excitement to get to that retirement date. But then all of a sudden, once they retire, there's happiness, but also there's a lot of fear.
Yeah, there is.
For lack of a better word. Maybe it's not fear, but there's some anxiety.
Right.
Because now I'm not saving. Now I need to take money from the portfolio. Before, I didn't really spend all that much time taking a look at the portfolio because I was saving money. I would sit down with you guys every 3 or 4 months. We would kind of get an update. But then once I retire, now it's start taking distributions from that. There's a definite mind shift of anxiety of saying, all right, well, asset depletion mode. Now it's time for me to start spending the money that I've saved my entire life. So asking that question, right? What does retirement mean to me? What does that lifestyle look like? What is my dreams, aspirations, my purpose, and everything else? That is so key to focus on that. Because once you start focusing on the dollars and cents, if you will, right? Then that's when people start making the bad decisions.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Joe. I was in the elevator with actually one of our clients this week. We came up the elevator together. I happen to know he's been retired about 1.5 years, 2 years, something like that. And I asked him, how's retirement going so far? And he said, well, it's a lot different than what I expected. And I, well, what does that mean? Tell me more. And he said, well, first of all, the financial part, that's fine. But he said, here's what I thought. That he said, my wife and I met playing bridge. We love playing bridge. We loved it then. We love it now. She retired 8 years ago. She plays bridge all the time. I thought I would be playing bridge with her all the time. And he said, it turns out that she's got these women's
She's got her
groups
group.
And she's got her own.
You're not invited.
You do your own deal,
Right.
do your own bridge group. And so he that was kind of, somehow that didn't occur to him. And I think there's these aha moments that happen to almost every one of us that retires. It's like, here's what we think, and then reality hits, and it's something different. And it's, boy, I will say, the more that you can pre-plan, the better, because you want to sort of minimize maybe those shocks or surprises the best you can.
And absolutely make sure that you communicate what your retirement vision looks like, right, to your spouse if you're married.
Yeah.
This is what I'm thinking that it's going to look like.
Right.
Because you might be assuming that you're on the same page when you could be on the exact opposite. I remember this study, and this is going off memory, so they asked, men, what are your top priorities in retirement? And men's top, or most of men, the majority of men were like, well, I want to spend more time with my spouse.
Right.
Right?
That's
And
what the men said.
That's what the men said.
Yeah.
Then the women, that was like 10th on their list.
That was on top of what I'm most worried about. I got to spend time with my husband.
Right, exactly. So you got to communicate to see what the overall financial picture looks like. First of all, right? Do you have enough money to retire? What is the overall Social Security strategy, pension strategy, taxes, and things like that? Once you get that buttoned up, all right, now the next phase is to say, all right, well, here we go. We're retiring next year. What does that look like? What do we want to do? How are you going to spend your time? How are you going to find your purpose and everything else in between? Got to take another break. Show's called Your Money or Wealth.
Now back to Your Money, Your Wealth on Talk Radio 760 KFMB.
Hey, welcome back to the show. The show's called Your Money or Wealth. Joe Anderson, Big Al. Thanks for tuning in. Happy weekend. A little rainy this weekend. A little chilly, but rain's always good, right?
It is good, especially.
Does it feel like we're in a drought?
Well, it doesn't, and it turns out now the northern part of the state, San Francisco and above, is now officially out of the drought, which is great. We're still in it here in Southern California. And the worst of it, by the way, is around Santa Barbara.
Really?
That's the absolute worst part of the drought. That's where it's extreme at this point.
Wow, look at the big brain.
I check the drought map every hour.
Usually I get my material for the show in the elevator.
Yeah, I know that.
But, right?
You weren't paying attention this week?
Well, we're getting a new elevator system, right, at the office?
Yeah, sure.
You've noticed this.
Yeah, I did notice it.
And so if you've ever been into the one that's kind of already set up with the new technology, have you ever read what's on that thing? I mean, it is crazy economics and... I don't even understand what's going on. Serbia just escaped from us. I mean, it's like I go, give me what state drinks the most.
Then I could use that.
Then I could use that on the show.
Yeah.
But when you start talking about, what's going on in, Serbia, it's like I can't use that.
I suppose this is a show about finances in the U.S.
True.
Yeah.
But do you know what state drinks the most?
I'd have to say Minnesota.
Yeah, you would say that. Rhode Island.
No.
Yes, sir.
How could that be?
Ask the elevator. I don't have any sources behind that. That's what the elevator said.
Okay.
There's a little trivia on the elevator.
Because I would think any state that people talk with a sort of a Canadian type accent is heavily drinking.
Well,
that's my intuition.
Well, you were born and raised in Southern California.
Yeah, opposite. Yeah,
I was born in Minnesota.
I drink tea.
And I'm the only guy that you know from Minnesota, so apparently that's what you're equating my drinking habits.
I've done a sample study of everyone I know from Minnesota, which is you and your mom.
Yeah. Oh man, that state must just be boozers.
Yeah, I don't know your brother and sister well, but I'm just, it's a sample of two.
Got it. Well, you could be right there.
Yeah, so we're asking questions that you need to ask yourself before you retire, and one of them, Joe, is what would you like to add to your life and eliminate from your life? And obviously, you're going to no longer be working, and maybe you want to decrease your involvement in some professional associations. But how are you going to fill the time? Because clearly, freedom is something we all want, we all strive for, and it's also can be scary when the slate is clear. And what should I be doing?
Right. Yeah, you want to have that feeling of, man, I am going to be so busy in retirement where I couldn't find time to work.
Right. I do think that's the best way to do it. Case in point. Dad,
there
father,
it is. I can't wait.
The father's story. The father's story and mother. Because when they were in their mid to late 50s, my mom started her first career, college graduate, psychology major, University of Redlands, but essentially raised 4 kids and really didn't spend time in a career. Until she was in her 50s, we were all either graduated from college or in college, and she decided she wanted to be a park ranger. And that started with the state park system in California. And then she went to the national park system, worked at Cabrillo National Monument, which then she went to Yosemite, which is one of her favorite places on earth, is Yosemite. And so think about my dad's standpoint. It's like, well, my wife is moving to Yosemite. Maybe I should think about retiring and be a park ranger too, which is exactly what he did. And what he told me was the 10 years that the two of them were park rangers in Yosemite, in Sequoia, back in Massachusetts, in Santa Monica Mountains were some of the 10 best years of their lives because they had absolute purpose on something that they truly believed in, which was having a beautiful place, a beautiful setting that people could come to. And I remember my dad talking about retiring, and he retired at 57. So I'm behind the 8 ball, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
He's probably pretty disappointed in
Yeah, probably. But anyway, he was playing French horn in local bands.
The French horn.
Yes, French horn.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
he got really into ecology and on and on and on. And interestingly enough, he told me that exact statement after 2 years of retirement. He said, I had this friend that told me when you retire, it's because you don't have enough time to work because you got so many activities. And I think that is a great approach to a successful retirement.
The French horn.
You like the French horn? You didn't know that?
No.
See, I knew I'd throw in something new.
God, jeez, the whole French horn.
Yeah, in fact, brother Richard plays French horn. I play guitar. My son Ryan plays guitar. Other son Robbie plays ukulele. Robbie, Ryan, and I can play piano. Brother Todd is hopeless.
He can sing, right? Get him in the lead singer.
Yeah, I suppose.
Get the Clopine family little band.
I got my younger sister Dana. She doesn't really play anything either.
No, got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. There's a little recap of the Clopine family. What other questions should we be considering?
Well, I guess a little bit part of maybe getting a little bit more into financing is how do you feel about downsizing? Because a lot of our equity, a lot of our net worth is pent up in our home.
Sure.
And of course, a lot of us don't want to leave our home. It's our comfort zone. That's where our friends are, our community. If we go to church or whatever our activities, it's there. But in some cases, what we find is when you look at your net worth, the highest percentage is in the home. And then how do you go about taking advantage of that? And of course, one way is to downsize, and that's not the only way. That's an obvious one, right? You have $1 million home, you downsize to a $500,000 condo, and maybe you pay off the mortgage in the meantime and still have $200,000-$300,000 left over. That's a great way to go. But sometimes people overlook other things, Joe, like in some cases, if people live next to a university, they might rent out a room to a college student, or in terms of reverse mortgages. Reverse mortgages tend to have not had such a good name because of maybe abuses in the past, but I would say they're a little bit more worth a look right now because some of the abuses and some of the problems have been cleaned up lately.
Yeah. We did a webinar, if you want to go to purefinancial.com, and it was utilizing home equity and several different strategies that you can take a look at if you wanted to create additional income from the equity of your home, or just different ways to look at the home. And I think, with reverse mortgages too, it's like people think it's the last resort, but I think a lot more wealthy individuals that it's not the last resort. It's a tool that you can use potentially, because of the line of credits that grow. And I mean, there's all sorts we could do a whole show on it if we wanted to.
Right.
But we did a webinar. It's an hour webinar. So you can go to Pure Financial, download that. Then there's also an ebook that we gave away as well to get you more information on that. And I did it with a professor from the American College.
Got it. In Boston?
The American College? Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
See, I know my colleges.
Yeah, you sure do. But yeah, so it wasn't from like a mortgage broker trying to sell a reverse mortgage. It was from a professor.
Yeah, academia.
That really studied, he's on the board of retirement studies of all sorts of different things.
I think that's the best way to learn about it because then there's no
There's
hidden
biases,
agenda, right?
Yeah, there's no hidden agenda.
That's always the problem of anything you listen to is, well, what's behind it?
Well, what's your agenda, Al?
Right?
What are you selling?
My agenda is to educate our listeners so that they can become more proficient financially and have the retirement life that they would like to live.
Well, truth be known, Alan.
You got something else?
Yeah. Got to take a break. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth.
This is Your Money, Your Wealth on Talk Radio 760 KFMB.
Hey, welcome back to the program. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. My name's Joe Anderson. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm with Big Al Clopine. He's a CPA. Thanks for tuning in. Stick around. We got Tom Anderson coming up. He wrote the book, Debt and Retirement. It's like, that's the last thing you want, right? Debt and retirement. But he's got a different way of looking at things. So stick around for Mr. Anderson. There's no relation.
Yeah, you would think so. Joe and Tom. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect combo, right?
I mean, it's very,
What's your brother's name?
Benjamin?
Benjamin. That should have been Tom.
Or Jonathan.
Or
right?
John, yeah.
Yeah. William.
William, yes.
Yeah.
That's a name in my family. My dad and my brother, middle name is William.
Really?
Because we had a William William great-grandfather. That's where that came from.
My sister's name is Erica.
Okay.
And she was named after Erica Kane. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
You know who Susan Lucci is?
No.
Do you ever watch soap operas?
Apparently not.
You're vacuuming. You got the apron on. All you got to do is put some soaps on, Clopine.
I'm missing out on a whole world, aren't I?
Yeah, I guess my mom was a big fan of Erica Kane from,
Got it.
I don't know.
What show was that?
I don't know, One Life to Live or General Hospital. Or...
As the world turns.
As the world
or whatever.
turns. I have no idea which one it was from, but I know who Susan Lucci is. She was up for 7,000 Emmys and never won, or maybe she
really?
finally did.
Travesty.
Yeah, it was. Well, my mom cried every year. All right. Hey, I just got the email bag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
got some good questions this week?
Yeah, a couple of them.
Okay.
So this is the title of the email. Should I recharacterize my traditional IRA contributions to a Roth IRA?
Okay.
I just realized that I've been making non-deductible traditional IRA contributions for years, while I should have been making Roth IRA contributions instead. In 2007, 8, and 11, I made non-deductible traditional IRA contributions of $4,000, $5,000, and $5,000 respectively.
Okay.
So a total of $14,000 there, Big Al.
I could
for
do
those
the
of
math.
you taking score. Is it too late to recharacterize those contributions to my Roth IRA? I did meet the MAGI, Modified Adjusted Gross Income limits for Roth contributions in those years. How do I calculate the net income since I have made contributions in the later years, 2008 and 11? Is this recharacterization going to cost me? Is it better just to leave it alone?
Wow, loaded question. I like the question, though, because there's a fair amount to it. So I guess maybe we'll start with the fact that virtually anybody that's working and has earned income can do a regular IRA contribution.
As long as you're under 70.5.
Well, that's true. I said virtually.
Jesus.
And however, if here are a couple of stipulations. If you are not in a company pension plan, you can fully deduct that $5,500.
Company 401k plan.
Yeah, 401k, right. Yeah.
Those are different, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Pension plan, I'm thinking defined benefit.
Yeah, okay. I'm with you. Jeez. Every step of the way I'm being corrected. It's like I'm back in school. Mr. Clopine.
We got to be accurate, Alan.
So you can deduct that $5,500, or $6,500 is the maximum if you're 50 and older, if you're not in a company 401k or 403b or 401a or 457.
Got it.
Okay. Now, if you are in one of those, then there's income limitations, and most people, they hit those income limitations, and you can't deduct that IRA, but you can maybe do a Roth IRA contribution, and there's income limitations there. And so when you're single versus married, and I've got a new table here, Joe, and that is when you're single, if your income is between
118 and
133.
133.
Yep. Then you, in other words, if it's less than $118,000 and you're single, you can make a full $5,500 Roth contribution. If it's over 133 for 2017, you cannot do a Roth contribution. And if you're married, if you're curious about that, those numbers are $186,000 to $196,000. If you're somewhere in between, you get to do a partial, right? So here's a case where someone actually did qualify for a Roth contribution, but did a IRA contribution, could not deduct it, got tax basis, looks like about $14,000 in this IRA. And first of all, the answer is you wouldn't recharacterize, but you could convert that IRA to a Roth. But here's the caveat, Joe, is if that's the only IRA that you have, then that works pretty well, because maybe your IRA now is worth $16,000. $14,000 was contributions, $2,000 was growth. You convert the whole $16,000. You only pay tax on the growth, which is $2,000, and now you got $16,000 in a Roth IRA. And you can do a Roth conversion regardless of your income level, regardless of your age. You don't even have to be working. You don't have to have earned income. A lot of people don't realize that there's no dollar limitation on how much you convert. It's wide open. Now, on the other hand, if this individual already had IRAs, let's just say already had $100,000 in an IRA, or let's say had $86,000
Yeah.
to make the math easy. $86,000 in another IRA, and then this $14,000 with basis. IRS says you have to add all your IRAs up together as if they were one single account, and in this case it would be $100,000. You have basis, in other words, you didn't get a tax deduction for $14,000. $14,000 into $100,000 is 14%. So when you do a Roth conversion, you get tax-free conversion on 14% of the conversion, but you have to pay taxes on 86%. So that's kind of how that works.
Clear as mud.
Yeah, you follow me? You didn't interrupt, so I must have been perfect as heck.
It's complicated.
It is.
It's complicated. So I guess just to boil it down to this individual, you made non-deductible contributions of $14,000 in 3 years. You made deductible contributions in the other 2 years. Those, all right, so then you add all those dollars up. Let's call it $20,000. $14,000 of the 20 is after tax. Okay, if you converted the full 20,000, right, 14,000 of that would be tax-free. Recharacterization he could do if it was in that same year. You could recharacterize that IRA contribution because these contributions were in 07, 08, and 11. You know, it's too late to do any type of recharacterization. Recharacterization only means is that you're just kind of undoing your contribution that you made.
Right.
So you made a contribution. You can recharacterize that back into whatever that you want to do. Recharacterize it to a Roth, or there's time limitations. October, the filing tax deadline is usually the deadline to do any type of recharacterizations. What Al was saying is like, hey, you know what? But there's a better way to get it into the Roth is to just convert it. Right, so now you're taking the money that you have in an IRA and you convert that, and there's no time limitation. So if I made a contribution in 2008, it's 2017 today, I can convert those contributions
anytime you want.
Yeah, anytime you want. There's going to be potential tax liability, so you just want to be cognizant of what that tax liability is, because there's the pro rata and aggregation rules and things like that. So it gets extremely complicated. So anytime you're dealing with IRA monies, that's where you want to maybe take a step back and understand exactly what the heck you're doing.
It is complicated, but I do encourage the concept, because when you get money into a Roth IRA, you're starting to take control over your taxes in the future, and control is everything when it comes to your money in retirement and taxes, because in retirement you actually do have more control over how much you pay in taxes, because you have at least some measure of control of which accounts you take the money out of, and each account may be taxed differently.
Got to take a break. Shields on your money wealth.